In 2017, Gap launched a marketing campaign titled Archive Reissue, and the purpose of this campaign was to bring back some of the best and most popular styles from the 1990s. So suddenly, Gap stores were full of classic pocket tees, bodysuits, and light wash high-waisted denim. And one of the cornerstones of this particular campaign was a promotional film they titled Generation Gap. And this film featured people like Elizabeth Jagger and Rumor Willis and others whose parents had actually modeled for Gap during the 90s. Additionally, the film starred Naomi Campbell, who was wearing an outfit incredibly similar to the iconic one that she wore during the 90s. So we have to ask ourselves, what led to this fashion rewind? So while Gap was very popular during the 90s, the early 2000s introduced some very difficult times for the company. In particular, the company saw a lot of lost market share, not only among the previously loyal customers from the 80s and the 90s, but also from the younger, newer generation that they were hoping to attract. So the National Post actually went so far as to say that Gap was alienating its shoppers, which is most likely a result of misunderstanding their consumer style preferences. And honestly, this isn't that surprising given the horrible taste in fashion trends in the early 2000s. And so as a result, in 2017, Gap released this campaign in an attempt to allow its customers to find happier days. So one reason why this campaign was so successful is just because of the nature of nostalgia campaigns in general. These kind of campaigns will capitalize on your positive associations and memories that you have from your past experiences. Because we view our past through such rose-colored lenses and we tend to romanticize the simpler times, this can be very effective. But the thing about nostalgia campaigns is that they don't only use your positive associations. They take the worst memories and the best memories and put them together, which creates this motivation for us to become better versions of ourselves, for us to learn from our past mistakes, and really recognize what's important in life. And so because the past does shape who we are today, we tend to look at it very reverently as we recognize this role that it plays in our lives. And so when nostalgia campaigns can tap into this, they can become very impactful. And so the 90s in particular were very profitable years for the US between increased technology like cell phones, low unemployment rates, and an excellent selection of TV and music that we still enjoy today. So it's really no wonder that consumers are so prone to reminiscing on the 90s because this decade really housed some of their best memories. And there's even a little bit of prestige associated with the younger generations if you can consider yourself a 90s kid. So today, nostalgia is still just as impactful. This rise of social media has especially led to this, and it led to making nostalgia a very common experience. So platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat will actually alert you on the anniversaries of your posts. So that way, on any given day, you can log on and see that 1 year ago today, 2 years ago today, etc., you were having the best time of your life. And so this is very similar to the way that we feel when we discover an old photo album and we go through and look at all of our fun memories, except now we can do it very quickly, very regularly, and we're notified of it anytime this pops up, so that way we never miss an opportunity to reminisce. So because of all of these factors, social media has really primed consumers to be very susceptible to nostalgia campaigns. So what does this actually mean for brands and marketers? Particularly in these days when we have stressful elections coming up and racial tension and a global pandemic, society is very quick to remember the good old days and want to escape. And so consumers will really jump at any opportunity to do this. So any brand that can kind of take this challenge on and implement a nostalgia campaign will most likely see positive consumer associations. So while clothing like Gap is definitely one of the more obvious industries that can use this, there are many others that will as well, including food and drink companies. For example, we all know that Coke tastes better out of a glass bottle than it does out of a can, even for those of us who were born way after they started using cans. So that's just another example. But the industry that I would like to focus on, and a slightly less apparent example, is that of cleaning supplies. So I believe that brands like Lysol and Procter & Gamble could really easily work with this nostalgic approach. They could draw on consumers' concerns about the health and safety of their families and the harshness of the chemicals that they're using to clean their homes and using around their kids and their pets. And also they're going to be concerned about environmental issues and what kind of impacts they're having. And so these brands can really utilize this by conjuring up images of a simpler, more wholesome time when there seemed to be less danger running around. And so if these cleaning supply brands can offer products that are safer and more health conscious, more environmentally conscious, I think that could definitely eliminate a lot of the consumer fear and allow them to trust the brands more. And then also in their advertising, they could just really emphasize this idea of returning to better, safer days of past generations. So in conclusion, as I said before, nostalgia campaigns have become increasingly popular over the last several years. On any given day, I'll hear my friends talking about listening to the Beatles or ABBA and other classic artists. I will go on Pinterest or even look in my closet, and I'm flooded with retro styles to choose from. Actually, the shorts I'm wearing right now came from a vintage store, so that's a very good example. And then you get on Netflix, and Stranger Things is one of the most popular suggestions. So it's very evident that our society loves all things retro. You could even say that we're a little bit addicted to nostalgia. And so if brands are paying attention to these consumer trends, many of them would be really wise to consider following in Gap's footsteps and implementing a nostalgia campaign.